The Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus left that place and went away to the district of Tyre and Sidon. Just then a Canaanite woman from that region came out and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But he did not answer her at all. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away, for she keeps shouting after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed from that moment. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Remember those ubiquitous bracelets? Wwjd. What would Jesus do? Well, in this particular instance, Jesus done messed up. At worst, Jesus is a sexist, xenophobic jerk who calls this foreigner and this woman a dog. I'll let you figure out the contemporary insult Jesus is grasping at. At best, Jesus is not a very good teacher if he can't even practice what he preaches. After literally just teaching in the verses before this about how it is what comes out of the mouth that defiles. Translation, the things we say, especially to and about other people, matter. And then in the next breath, Jesus turns around and his first instinct is to call this woman a dog. Well, do as I say, not as I do, I guess. Now, our first instinct might be to defend Jesus. That can't possibly be what's going on here, right? But things get problematic even before the outright insults. This woman is shouting, a detail Matthew notes not just once, but twice. But Jesus does not answer her at all. Does he not hear her? The disciples certainly did. "Send her away," they protest. It's hard to imagine that Jesus didn't, which implies Jesus was outright ignoring her. Maybe he was just tired, or maybe he was grappling with centuries of ancient hostilities between his people and their neighbors, and just hoping the woman would go away if he gave her the silent treatment long enough. The evidence certainly makes it difficult to defend Jesus, but maybe that's not Matthew's intent anyway. Maybe instead, Matthew wants to remind us that this Emmanuel, so named all the way in chapter 1, this God with us, humans, is himself deeply and truly and fully human, as we confess in the words of the Creed. And if Jesus is fully human, then it follows that Jesus was susceptible to getting it wrong and messing up. Now that's a hard thing to grapple with. And I would invite us to sit with that tension, that Jesus was fully human. Jesus messed up. Jesus made mistakes. How might that change how we approach the stories in the Gospels? That could be a whole Bible study series on its own, couldn't it? How might that change this story? Now, some interpretations would suggest that Jesus was testing this woman's faith, Was she worthy enough to have her request for help granted? Or maybe he was testing his hearers about the lesson he had just imparted. Would they pick up on what he had just done wrong and call him out on it? That feels a little icky, though. Manipulative even, doesn't it? And what kind of credibility would such a teacher have to make this woman an object lesson and an object of ridicule? What if instead the exemplar of faith in this story is not Jesus, but the unnamed Canaanite woman kneeling at the feet of Jesus, shouting, pleading, begging for help for her daughter? After all, Jesus does commend her for her faith. What if, in fact, this woman is the one in the story who has the most to teach us about faith? This unnamed Canaanite woman models a kind of faith that is persistent, not for its own sake, but for the well-being of another. In this case, her daughter, even when that other isn't in the room and doesn't yet have a place at the table. And she knows and trusts that Jesus, whom she calls Lord and Son of David, can help her, and she won't take no or his insults toward her for an answer. Hers is a faith that is persistent and risk-taking, daring to talk back to Jesus. Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. Daring to remind Jesus of the abundance that just a few loaves of bread can provide for thousands. Did he forget so soon? Daring to change Jesus' mind and expand his understanding of the very reign of God he himself has been preaching and proclaiming. Jesus changes his mind. There is the scandal of this story and the good news. Jesus changes his mind toward an even greater inclusivity. If Jesus, who, while fully divine, is also fully human, can make mistakes and change his mind, then so can we. There is grace in that. Permission to make mistakes, own up to them and learn from them so that we can preach and practice a radically inclusive and expansive reign of God that is for everyone, not just for a select group who profess a specific creed, who adhere to a specific set of beliefs, who belong to a particular denomination or congregation, who speak a particular language or come from a particular culture. This story invites us to a different understanding of faith, not exactly with Jesus as teacher, but with this unnamed woman who shows up in a mere 8 verses. Wwtcwd. What would the Canaanite woman do? The Canaanite woman would shout until she was heard, embodying a kind of faith that is persistent, bold, and risk-taking, playing the long game and staking its hope on that long arc of the moral universe that inevitably bends toward justice and wholeness and liberation, even when we can't quite yet perceive it, even when it feels like our efforts at repairing the world in pursuit of God's reign are futile. The Canaanite woman would shout in harmony with Mary's song, embodying a kind of subversive faith that turns the world upside down, lifting up the lowly, filling the hungry, remembering the forgotten. Great is your faith, Jesus commends her. Persistent faith, risk-taking faith, faith concerned for the other, crossing boundaries, subverting expectations, revealing abundance, pointing us to expansive grace and radical belonging. A faith that changes minds and changes us.